Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle, where Dean and Rob talk about everything marketing. Today's going to be a great conversation. Um, all of our talks, Dean, are based on um, current things that are happening or questions we're getting asked, and a lot of it comes from your confusion as being basically our poster child. So today you're confused on backlinks.
Yeah.
You and I were having a conversation by phone, and we said, "Hey, let's jump on to having a conversation inside of the huddle about it." Because if you're lost, one of our members might be a little lost, or misunderstanding what backlinks are and how kind of just
Yep.
the whole ecosystem works for local SEO, how data turns into advertising, that whole piece. So ask me questions and let's
All
go
right.
through. As you've said in one video that we did a long time ago, I'm the answer man. So I'm
Oh,
here to
come on.
answer your
We're
questions
getting to a
and
sign that says
confuse you
the
and fuck you up
you didn't
even
change.
more.
You didn't change on the bottom. Says Rob the Answer Man, co-founder, Simply Be Found.
You
Anyway,
want to print shop? You can print me a shirt that says "Simply Be Found." Rob the answer man.
no, it's just like I don't have shoes. I have I have a friend that makes shoes. I don't have shoes, so that's how it goes, buddy. Anyway, let's talk about this. I had a request saying that they're concerned about the backlinks because they went through a name change, and so they're talking about. And I know that's kind of a little different, but they're talking about the backlinks now. The backlinks are the way I understand it traditionally are the hyperlinks that happen when another website or another provider references your website, and that I think that's the traditional way of thinking it. But when we talk about voice search and things like that, of course, let's talk about what are backlinks with what our platform does, and how that the voice search, the listings networks, how they create the backlinks for your business and get and add value for that local SEO piece. So I'm not. So let's talk about that a little bit, if you would.
All right. So a traditional backlink. So you used to be able to go to an SEO company and say, "Hey, I want to go buy X number of backlinks." I don't think those have as much value as they once did. They did back in the '90s. They did back in the early 2000s, late 2000, eight 2010. I mean, AI has really kind of changed the way backlinks work, in my opinion, especially for a local business. So if you're talking e-commerce, having all those backlinks, it's going to make a world of difference. What our system does is it focuses on what's called local backlinks. So what that means is when you get registered inside of yellow pages, super pages, Dex knows, the list goes on. Some of these networks you've never even heard of. And that what that's doing is it's giving you that link to your website. So when you put your website inside of our listings engine, it gets blasted out, gets creates these profiles and creates these data points that says, "Hey, this website is tied to this business." And usually that's all done by your name, your address, your phone number, your website. All that stuff is all linked together. It's why putting your social media networks are so important because it creates this entire ecosystem inside of your local SEO. So, from a data aspect, that's what I'm looking for. AI has kind of twisted this, turned it upside down because now machines are getting smarter. They're able to say, hey, you don't even technically have to have a backlink there, but if XYZ plumbing company gets mentioned and it's a name, and sometimes if it has a location, but just sometimes the name will do it, it's smart enough it can reference the same website and give that. So inside of the world of marketing, you have three pillars. You have content, authority, and trust. We talk
Right.
about that a ton.
We always
All
do.
three of these parts of all three parts of these of the equation or the ecosystem are all very important. They're very intertwined. So by building up those profile links, you're going to end up increasing your authority and you're going to build your trust because now your information is out there in more than spots. Because when a search happens, what's going to happen is that search engine or that algorithm is going to go out and it's going to try to find the best resources it can. Well, it's looking for authority. It's looking for how many data points it can collect and how many of those points are matching identically. That's why when we're talking about NAP for name, address, and phone number, and you might have street on this profile and ST on this profile, that's inaccurate inconsistency between the two profiles, which then is going to increase your spam score.
So
So when you're looking at it from that point.
All right, let me interrupt for just a second there. You just said that
Go
something
for it.
really important because it's talking about the backlinks to your website. And you were just talking about our name, address, and phone number. Our listings engine is fixing that so it's consistent across all the networks. The problem
Yep.
that some of our members have and other people we've talked to is their website doesn't match what they're supplying to us on the name, address, phone number for our listings piece. Is that a problem? I mean,
Yes.
okay. And then,
Yes. So all of it has to match, and that's why schema is going to matter on your website because you have to make sure that schema is correct because that's also that other data point. So whatever your footer says, make sure that is all there. You have to make sure it's consistent because anything that is inconsistent inside of that ecosystem, so the more you're always going to have inconsistencies. You're never going to be 100% perfect. It's that
right,
that just
right,
is what it is. So you'll never have 100% on any kind of score when you look at that side because of that reason. But the more inconsistency you have, the higher your spam score goes up. The higher your spam score goes up, the more your business isn't going to be found.
right.
And towards that's how competition comes in and beats you and does all the different stuff that they're doing inside of that
Right,
ecosystem.
and it even goes to the name. We've had some members that have been with us, and their website has a certain name that they go by because that's how they're recognized. But then when they're doing the listings piece, they're calling themselves. They're adding something to their name, and that causes confusion, in my opinion.
It does.
And so if that happens, do you get the backlinks? If things don't match, do you get those backlinks? I mean,
Yes, no.
you
Yeah,
know,
yes, no, maybe, and all mixed in. You never really know. And one important thing to think about is we are an aggregator. So we don't, when we blast all the information out, we're not creating profiles for you. We might have to for a couple of these networks in the future. So I have to be really careful saying that. But as of today, we don't create any profiles for you. Some of the networks might do that because they're going to require verification pieces, which is a whole nother piece that's coming out. And I was doing research on this morning, which is why I look like this today. We weren't planning on doing a podcast, but
I've been
it's one of
fighting
it's
dark too.
exactly so, and uh, it's one of those things to where was I going to go with that? So we don't create that. So we're an aggregator.
Right,
So we don't create those profiles for you. We provide the data over. And this is going to have more value than us going through and creating profiles because now it came from a trusted source. Simply Be Found is known as being a trusted source. It's known for being able to help enterprise. It's known for being able to help small businesses, medium sized businesses, franchises. We help so many different businesses there. And when I built out that listings engine, when I built out that aggregator, I wanted to be able to accomplish this to be able to give us the highest authority, to be able to give our members the biggest authority they possibly can. So we don't create those profiles for them, but we will provide the data over. So that means you're not going to get boom instant results because that goes through the vetting process. You're still subject to their terms and conditions. We provide that data over. They have a way they process that data, and then they have a certain time frame that they update. And a lot of networks we have no idea when they're updating each of those networks. So when we look at backlinks from that aspect and we go out, there's sites that you've never heard of, and you're going to get listed on those sites. And then it builds up from there. That is how we're working and building up your authority. So you get little pieces of that pie as you build up. Now, when you look at backlinks, you're not always going to have a true backlink because if you go out to Alexa, that's a voice search. That is a listing that's someone doing a voice search and it's delivering it there. So it doesn't technically have a physical profile attached to it. When you're doing Siri, it does because now you're connected inside of Apple Maps inside of there because that's where it pulls all of its data. And then, all the Google products. So Google, Bixby, and all that different stuff. And the whole reason why we don't, I think this is a really important piece as well. We do not work with your Google business profile unless you make us a manager. And that's totally your choice because Google is ruining everything for how that whole entire listings engine was happening and going beyond it. So, I mean, having that Google business profile gets you out to all the Google networks. So if you just want to be on the Google networks, go get a Google business profile, optimize it, build up your questions and answers and do all that stuff for it. If you want us to manage the basics, you can do that with the listings engine. It's included. If you don't have a Google business profile, we'll create one for you. But that is ends up powering all that. And some of those have backlinks, some of them don't. Then you also have the ability for backlinks, once you have all these profiles created, other sites come and they scrape that information or use that as their data sources, which then branches out and just continues feeding out, which ends up creating an entire ecosystem.
Right.
So your local, so that whole entire piece is really kind of interesting for how backlinks are done. We're not a backlink service, but yet we'll create backlinks for you organically off of your profiles. Does that make sense?
It does. So if somebody went through a name change and they're concerned about backlinks, what does that mean? I mean, if so, they'd have to update their website. They'd have to update their so they if they so if they make any significant changes, say they move or whatever, they have to get it fixed on the website and they have to fix it on their business profile, their business information, if you will. We're not creating the profile, they are, but the information has to be updated, and then it takes time for that to remeld again, doesn't it? And so
It
so
does. So a lot of aspects. So you have to handle it in a special way. So if you are changing the name of your business, and coming from the world of doing the whole venture capital and M&A market and buying companies and changing names over, I have a ton of experience on that side. I've done it for thousands of different businesses when they change the name and match it together. You have the time aspect, but you have to make sure you handle it in the right way. So if you just go create a new Google business profile, now you're going to hurt yourself even more versus if you changed the name and went through the proper channels to get that name changed. So if you come to us and say, boom, here's our profile, here's the new company, but don't tell us at the very beginning that, hey, my name used to be this, it's going to put you behind the eight ball. Doesn't mean you totally jacked it all the way up. It's just going to put you behind the eight ball until you tell us, hey, I did a name change. Because that means our data science team is going to have to go and say, this business used to be called this. They did the name change for this reason. And we can send it out to the network. So when they see it, they don't go, yeah, there's already a business that's close to that at that address or that phone number. That's where that kind of starts building on, and you get that inconsistency. Your spam score goes through the roof because the
yeah,
networks get confused. They're only so smart. I mean, we've made it light years down the road for how smart these algorithms are, but they still cannot handle it as much as the human can inside of that aspect.
right. Is time a sensitivity issue? I mean, let's say somebody changed their name a year ago and they're still not seeing results, and they come to us and say, "We want you to fix it for us." Yeah, we. I mean, it doesn't matter
We can.
when.
It's the same process. We'll just
Right,
have to start it over and start those communications. And a lot of those communications are our data team emailing each of those networks for our contacts and going, hey, guess what? We have this name change. And it's a time process. It's not going to be a quick, boom, instantly fixed everywhere because all this stuff is organic. So you have to give it time to build up and be able to do it.
right.
And
So
every business is going to be a little
right,
unique.
because even if you haven't gone through a name change and any of that stuff, it still takes time. But organically, if you make a name change, it may take even a little longer. Do you think, or not? What's your opinion on that? I mean, it
It
seems like
depends.
the process is the same. The information sharing submissions are the same. That it should happen about the same time frame as just an organically being found on the networks.
It could take a little bit more time, but let's pick on your business that's been around for 50 some years.
Right,
So you've went out, you've hired all these different agencies over the time. You hired me as an agency. I used to go to third parties to be able to do what we do.
right,
Before we said that they don't know what the hell they're doing, we're going to do it on our own. There's a better way of doing this. That's the whole entire reason why Simply Be Found even came into existence. So each of those things that your other company did over those 50 years got different inconsistencies that are out there. So you already have mismatched information in your spam score. You're not even realizing it. Your spam score could be totally jacked up. And that spam score could even be helping you, which is really jacked up in its own way. But when you come in and you go, okay, Simply Be Found put out that data, we're now going through and having to clean all that data up. Sometimes we're getting questions back from each of the networks saying, hey, what is this? Is this the same company? And we're doing that research. Sometimes we have to come to you and ask you questions and say, is this you? That's a very rare piece because we're really good at what we do from the data side. but you can have just as many inconsistencies and be hurting yourself just as much as that person who does the name change because it wasn't done right the first time. You might have duplicate profiles out there, and we have to say, well, can we please remove that? We don't really have a service. We're not a service that does duplicate removal because it's a pain in the ass, and I've never seen one really go that well. But we try to be able to do it as we go through, and that's a big keyword: try. Just because systems start to create things, and when you let things go rogue, you're going to cause that confusion. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because you talked about all the different things. My business has been around long enough that we went through the yellow page process, all these other things, the yellow book or whatever you want to call it. And one book put our name one way, and another one put another one. They put spaces, they put special characters, they put words, and so it's been a process for us to even clean that one up,
Yeah.
itself. And I know that those are out there, but we rank okay. I mean, we, I mean, for that business, but it took some time to get that all cleaned up. And we still find every once in a while these things pop up, and we have to go, and I think sometimes older businesses have a few more hurdles to overcome. But the big thing is making sure that everything's consistent so that those links happen to make get you to the that trust and authority and content piece all put together. So
Well, it's a big piece, and this is all part of being able to take your data and turn it into advertising, and which is what we're really good at being able to do. And it's all about those data sets. Your business has so much data, has data on the website, has data in each of the profiles, has data out everywhere. I mean, and it builds backlinks. And sometimes you build backlinks natively and don't even realize you're doing it if you're not checking your Google Search Console, if you're not checking Google Analytics, you're not monitoring some of that. You can have different backlinks. You just natively get it. And when you do organic, and that's probably one of the hardest things for anybody to understand, sometimes it takes longer because you're not buying that ad spot. If we were buying that ad spot and you were just inside of Google, Bing, or Facebook, you might be spending anywhere between $5 and $50 per lead that comes through from my research that we've done, things that we've seen there. But it's one of those things that you have to understand how each of those pieces work together. And you have to make sure you have the right structure, the right data point. We just happen to make it a lot easier. We make it super simple for you to fill out that one form, go out everywhere, so you don't have to worry about all that stupid shit that goes involved in between because it gets complicated. It changes every day. I mean, my whole entire morning has been doing research on all the updates that are happening across all the networks and making sure we're in line.
yeah, and then I call up and talk to you about the backlinks piece, and that's what prompted this whole conversation today, because the way I interpret it, the way I remember it, I'm being old school and how backlinks used to be. It's different now, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you a little bit to try to explain that, to bring some clarity to that process.
Well, there's a lot of yin and there's a lot of yang between you and I, and that's what makes you and I so good, so different, and makes us great partners. Makes this podcast, this huddle, what it is. Because you think like a small business owner. You own a small business. You experience those problems. You're old, and I'm just say
Careful.
that, and I say that with
It's all
all the pieces
relative,
in
baby.
between.
It's all relative. Jeez.
You're experienced, and
Oh,
but
that's better. That's a
then you
better
all
comment.
but then you bring everything in, which then allows us to have a real conversation because I know I've been doing this stuff for 30 some years, and it's changed, it's mixed, but I've stayed on top of it and know what it is. And there's things that I say. It's kind of like the whole piece that we talked about this morning as well. We were talking about featured images, and you went, well, that doesn't really matter. And I said, well, it does. And it's all because one of the big things that marketers have done that's really just kind of jacked up every single business owner out there is they use one term, and it can be used and placed in about 50 different spots.
Right. Right. Citations. There's a classic for you. See
A citation is a profile and a backlink.
right. But people use other citations for other things, other comments, other processes. I mean, but what we're doing is trying to
Right.
define what they really are, kind of thing. You know.
We try to make it as simple as we possibly can. Data aggregator. Data aggregator sends out your information, creates citations, which also can be called listings,
Right,
which then can also be called profiles,
right. And that's the thing is, the
which also can be called backlinks, which then can also be included inside of your entire site linking process for how you're doing that for out there. I mean, when I look at reports and I look at all that, I mean, it talks about Google Analytics, talks about organic traffic declining, local packs. I mean, there's another term for a listing, it's your local pack.
oh yeah, the 3 packs, 6 packs. Oh no,
So
the
you
six
got your
pack something
three
else.
pack, which then turned into 2 pack, which on some networks is 1 pack, some networks is 4 pack. I mean, we could really make it really super
Right. Well,
confusing and have it all the way across. What did you come up with the other day that you called me up and asked me some gibberish crap about how all that works? What was that?
I, I I'm trying to remember now. I don't. We have too many conversations sometimes, and I'm trying to think. But
You said what does this mean to you? And you went blah, 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 blah,
oh
blah,
no,
blah,
no,
blah.
I don't. I'm going to save that for another podcast because I want to talk
All
about
right, you can
the
save that
language.
for another podcast. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of those things to where you could talk at a really high level, or you could bring it all the way down.
Right.
Simply Found's goal for all these podcasts, for our tools, everything is to make it super simple for you to be able to go out to each of those networks and make it simple for you not to spend hours having to do the research that myself and our team and you do as well do to be able to make everything work.
Right. And I think what people need to understand is you're bringing the data set side, which you've been doing for 30 plus years now. And I'm bringing the small business aspect that I've been doing for, geez, 40 years almost for different small businesses I've owned. So between the two of us, we bring a different perspective for people that are trying to understand the process. Because I ask the questions I think that a lot of people don't want to ask, and then you offer the answers. I'm not the only one who's confused out there. Sometimes I get it most of the time, but sometimes I just twist it in my head a little bit, and that's what I go to the answer man for. There we go. I threw it in there again.
Well, let's be honest. If we go to any of our programmers or any of our engineers, they think a different way. They get
Oh
confused
yeah,
on some of the stuff, and we have big, huge, deep conversations on some of this, which you don't even want to hear. You bring the data science team into it. That's a whole nother set of questions, and they don't get why it is. Well, they don't get the psychology side of the marketing piece. Then you get the AIs that agree and disagree and pull from what supposedly is called the industry experts out there,
yeah,
which have never spent a day and they think everything is going to be lab tested and this is the way it should be, and that's not the way the world works. You also have to think about how is somebody going to come in and how are they going to do a voice search for your business? How are they going to put it inside of a search engine? And how are they going to find you? And how are they going to absorb that data? And can you get them to convert? Because you can do everything by the book, and if nobody understands what the hell you're doing or gets your message, you're going to be lost and you're going to lose.
absolutely. I agree with you 100%. So, well, I think that we've clarified what backlinks are. I hope people understand better. I know I
And if
do.
you don't, leave a comment, send us a chat. We'd love to chat about it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Depends on where you're listening or where you're watching this podcast at. And I am Rob, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Simply Be Found. And this is
And I,
Dean, one of the
yeah.
co-founders of Simply Be Found. See, I'm gonna do it today instead of you doing it.
Okay, thank you. I'm the other guy. Anyway, great. Everybody, thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.